Hey friends, I want to talk about something that I've learned through my curiosity work and my own learning practice, which is that I value fun in the learning process. Uh, that may sound obvious, but it's taken me a while to learn, and it's something that's not always obvious to other people when I work with them as collaborators or coaches or teachers or mentors, and it really matters to me. Often when we learn something, we're encountering not only the subject material, but also a pedagogy about how to learn that material. And it's a refined pedagogy. People share these things the way they do for a reason, but often I at least bump up against some kind of friction with how people want me to learn what I'm being asked to learn, what I'm trying to learn. And when I try to do that way, it's sort of said to be optimal. They're like, oh, this is the right way to do this. This is the best way to do it. This is how we do it. But it doesn't work for me. And when I look at the way that I've learned things over the years, it's often very suboptimal. And I could even go back and be like, oh, I would have taught it to myself this way. But it's the way that I learned it. And importantly, as I approach my own learning practice more and more, it really matters to me that I'm having fun in the learning process. So say I'm learning stuff about music. I do stuff with music now. I DJ. I make music with Aspen and others in Heartkiss for the Love Department. I love this stuff. And also there's a lot you can learn about music, and there's a lot you can learn about music theory, and there's a lot you can learn about DJing, and there's a lot you can learn about music production and instruments and all kinds of stuff. It's basically an infinitely long skill tree, and that's great because there's a lot to learn, but it can also be overwhelming. And frankly, some things feel more fun than others, and also at different times. And so if I started at the beginning of what some people say is the skill tree, music theory 101 or whatever, music production 101, DJing 101, some of the stuff they have you learning at the beginning is just not that fun. And I really listen to that. So with music or drawing or fiction or other things that I'm learning actively over time, these are almost like recurring focuses of my learning practice where I'm trying to always get better at them. Movement's another one. I steer by what's fun for me and what's interesting to me, even if it's suboptimal. And so a teacher or a coach or someone who's more expert in that thing is, I've had people say this to me, like, they're like, oh, why are you learning it that way? Like, why are you learning in that order? You should do this instead. And on the one hand, they're probably right. I'm sure that would be more optimal, but also it's not fun for me. And the thing is, me learning something suboptimally is unfortunate in the short term, because maybe there's some fact that if I knew, or some other skill that if I had, it would make it easier to learn other things later on. I do really care about skill trees, and you do need dependencies for things. But if I'm having fun in the learning process, I'm much more likely to keep going and to keep enjoying it and to keep developing my skill at it, which means that it's more likely that if we fast forward 1 or 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 or 30 years, that I'm going to keep doing that thing. And if it's not fun, if it's consistently not fun, if it's draining, if it sucks my life force away, then if we fast forward 1 or 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 or 30 years, it's less likely that I'm going to be still doing that thing. Fun sustains itself. Fun is a self-sustainable, clean fuel that can fuel the learning process, amongst other things. And so I know that, and I can just run on fun as long as it's fun. That's basically what I do all day long, is I do the thing that's most fun for me to do until it stops being fun. And then I switch to something else that's fun, and I stop doing that until it's fun. And I do that all day long until I have to sleep. And then once I wake up, I just start over and do the same thing. And I love that for me. I'm going to be making videos now for the next while until it stops being fun, and then I'll switch to something else, and that'll be great. Anyway, so It's basically, I think learning by fun, yes, looks suboptimal in the short term to someone who's an expert, to someone who's familiar with the territory, to a teacher who's considered pedagogy, but it is optimal in the long term because you're much more likely to keep going and to enjoy it such that you keep going, such that you want to keep going, such that you want to keep developing it. And often, this has so often been my experience that, say there's some very basic level skill that's not fun for a long time. Like, I don't know, for most of the first few years of my visual art career, I traced things in Procreate and I didn't learn a lot about the technical skills involved in making shapes and drawing on my own and doing that kind of work independently. I was doing tracing in Procreate because Procreate makes that possible. And yeah, it's a kind of training wheels, but it made it fun for me. It made drawing fun for me and it made me keep going. And I learned a lot of other things about art. At a certain point, it can become fun to do those basics and be like, oh yeah, I really do want to learn those basics. And then you could actually learn them much more quickly because you have a larger context for them and you have the internal motivation to do so. And so I just know, like with music, for example, music's kind of weird because my skills with it are very uneven in that on the one hand, I did a lot of vocal training for a long time, but on the other hand, I don't know, I'm not the best at it. And it's been a while, and there's much more that I don't know about music than I do. And so I'm kind of a beginner in so many ways, but if I just keep going and I just keep making sure that I'm having fun while I do it, and I only do it when it's fun, then I don't know, I would bet, I don't know for certain, but I would bet that if I'm still doing it in 15, 20 years, which it's more likely that I will because it's fun, that I'll be really good. I might not be the world's best at that thing, whether it's music production or singing or playing piano or whatever it is, but I'm probably going to be pretty good and better than I would be if I forced myself early on to do it the quote right way, to do it the quote optimal way. The fun way is actually the optimal way, is basically my thesis, even if it looks suboptimal in the short term. So that's been really important to me, my learning process. I insist on that in myself. I insist on it if I work with a coach or a teacher or a mentor, which I do from time to time. And I tell them, hey, look, my own fun is more important to me than doing this the right way or doing it suboptimally. And I might do stuff that looks really goofy or that seems like the wrong direction, but my fun matters to me more, and that's the way we're going to do it. And I don't work with coaches or mentors or teachers who don't get that or aren't okay with that, because some coaches or mentors are, very insistent and attached on the way they do things is the right way, or that's just the way they're going to do it, and they're not very flexible, and that's just their process. I can understand that. They've worked really hard at this thing for a long time, and they know how they think about it and how they want to work with people. But I know me, and I know me better than they do. They may know the subject matter material better than I do, but I know me better than they do. And for me, I know that fun really matters. And I call this the student-first mindset as opposed to a teacher-first mindset, where the student's own desires and goals and values and preferences and inclinations and proclivities, those matter, and those are at the center of the education process, rather than artificially imposing a pedagogy or a structure from the outside, like one-size-fits-all kind of approach. Of course, there's a golden mean here, and the best teachers I've worked with know how to do a bit of both. I have no problem with that, but it really matters to me that I'm having fun. I want to make sure I'm having fun when I'm learning, that it's more fun than it's not, and that keeps me going and makes it so that I enjoy it today, so that I'll enjoy it tomorrow, and makes it much more likely that I'll be excellent in the future. So hope that helps for you with your own learning practices, and sending you love wherever you are, friend.